In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Before we begin today's program, before the commentary, before the conversation, before anything else, there is something that must be said. Something that deserves more than a passing mention. Something that deserves silence and space and the full weight of our attention. To the family of Nolan Wells, we see you. In this moment, in your grief, in the quiet that loss leaves behind, we see you and we stand with you. Nolan Wells was more than a name. He was someone's person, the kind of person who leaves a mark, not through grand gestures, but through the steady, undeniable presence of someone who showed up. He mattered to those who knew him. He mattered to this community. And that mattering does not end because he is no longer here. If anything, it grows louder in his absence. Because that is what love does. It refuses to be silent. To every member of the Wells family, may you find in the days ahead not the absence of pain, but the presence of peace. May the memories of Nolan wrap around you like something warm and unshakable. May you know that his story was and always will be worth telling. This episode of America in Black and White, Season 4, Episode 120, is dedicated entirely and with great honor to the family of Nolan Wells. We carry him in his memory into every word spoken today. Rest well, Nolan. This one's for you. You are tuned in to America in Black and White, the show that doesn't blink, doesn't fold, and doesn't let the country off the hook. I'm your host, Charles Zachary King, and today we go deep. This is Season 4, Episode 120, a solo show, just me, this mic, and the truth. And if you know how we do it at AMIBW, then you already know we don't water anything down. Today on the program, we're talking culture, the state of Black America in the summer of 2026, what the media is getting wrong, what the money is still missing, and what the next generation is demanding, whether the world is ready or not. We're talking sports, because the game is never just a game. We'll break down what's happening on the court, on the field, and the boardrooms where the real decisions get made. We have show updates. Some things happen in AMIBW, in the AMIBW world that you need to know about. And before all of that, this episode carries something heavier and more meaningful than any take or any talking point. We open today's program with a dedication to the family of Nolan Wells. That dedication stands at the heart of everything we do today. So don't go anywhere. Don't scroll past. Don't sleep on this one. Episode 120 starts right now. We're going to start with with the show updates that we have for you, the audience, where we want to make sure that you guys know some of the things that we've got upcoming, as well as what's actually transpiring here on the show. I want to say hello to each and every individual that is tuned in. I want to say hello to each and every individual that is always here every show, every episode that we have. I want to say hello and thank you. And I want you to please make sure you're following along, and make sure as you've got any questions, please put them in our chat, and I promise to answer them aloud here on the show. So before we get into the meat of today's episode, let me take a moment to check in with you, the AMIBW family, because this show is nothing without the people who show up for it every single week. And I want you to know what's been going on, what's coming up, and how you can be a part of what we're building here. First, let me tell you guys about this milestone. This episode 120, again, adds to the many great things that we do here at American Black and White. This show being 120 for this season, season 4 alone, I want to tell you that it's been great. It's been 4 great, wonderful seasons. It's been 4 great learning, outstanding moments that we can reflect on. And we can say that we have an audience that's here, that has always been here. And the show itself would be nothing without our guests. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you all so very much. And so without you, there would be no show. But what makes this episode tonight a milestone is, in great pleasantries, we're able to dedicate this to the memory of Nolan Wells and his family. Because of unfortunate circumstances, we don't know what they are, but loss is never well for anyone. And I want to make sure that his family knows that they're in our prayers, and we send our condolences to them. And so what we're going to get started is that for those of you that have not yet subscribed to the channel and enabled all notifications, I want to start by asking you if you would please support us, subscribe to the channel, enable all notifications, and please be a part of what we're building, because this, when we talk about building communities, it all starts here. It all starts with you. And I want to thank you for that. So leave us a review, tell your friends, share the video, like the video, do all those things, and be a part of this ecosystem as it grows. Our presence here at American Black and White. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple. So I want you guys that don't know that to please go find us there, follow us there, be a part of what we're doing right now. And I promise you that you won't be disappointed, but it's going to be more engaging because there's more that we have to tell you. Every platform that you follow us on is another way to show reaches somebody who needs it. We're building something here, and every subscriber, every follower, every share is a brick in that foundation. So what's ahead in season 4? We're not done. We're actually in the midst of changing in our growing process. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be covering more conversations. We're going to have more commentary, more voices in the room. The topics we tackle, they're going to not slow down. They're actually going to expand. So I need you guys to stay locked in. What is actually going to happen with all the new things that we're going to be launching here for this platform? Everything goes in effect and premieres and debuts with our new format on Labor Day, September 7th. So I need you guys to make sure that you mark that down, that you follow, that you subscribe, that you do what's necessary, because your engagement is going to matter more than you could ever imagine. So I'm going to do a community shout out to everyone who has commented, shared, reposted, and sent messages saying this show hit home. I hear you and I appreciate you more than you know. This show exists because of you. If you've reached out on social media, if you've tagged a friend, if you've left a review anywhere, thank you. That is what keeps this engine running. And I need you guys to stay connected. The best way to stay connected with everything that we're doing at American Black and White is I need you guys to follow us on all platforms. Turn on your notifications to be notified. And don't let the algorithm decide whether you see the contents, and make the decision yourself. I need you to hit the subscribe button to follow and stay in the conversation. And so how I need you guys to support the show, and what I am asking is that if the show has ever given you something, a perspective, a moment of clarity, a conversation you need to hear, to consider supporting it, share it with someone who benefit, leave a 5-star review. That's the currency that keeps independent media alive, and AMIBW is worth keeping alive. We're going to, make sure that, I want you guys to also start following us on the website, AmericanBlackandWhite.us. Go to the website, subscribe to the newsletter, take part in the things that are happening there on the website as it is being completely rebuilt and built out for your access and for you to be a part of what we're actually doing here on this show. I can tell you that for all the work that we're doing, I will tell you that this is definitely about each and every individual that is here. This is about each and every last one of you, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate you, because what we're going to be doing next is, I'll tell you, I need you guys to start following us and going to the website. Please check out the website, because the website itself is going to start, it'll probably be before then, but the website itself, you guys will be able to catch the show there on the website. Our special events, you guys are going to be able to catch those on the website. And believe me, there will be plenty, I mean plenty of special events that we will be holding, that you, the people that are attached to our website, and everyone around the country here that's watching. It's not from social media perspective, but when you go to the website, there's going to be more perks, more of everything that you guys are going to be able to. I want to say hello to all the people that have just come in. I appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you so very much. And as we get into this show, I want to thank you more than you could imagine, because I wanted to make sure that for those of you that are just getting in, that there's more to come here at America in Black and White, and we're going to be debuting a new launch for an enormous amount of things that we're having that's going to be effective September 7th, which is Labor Day. We're going to be relaunching a new thing that's happening with the show. So we need you guys to make sure that you're tuned in. So please stay on top of the website and see what we have going on. So that's what's happening here in the AMIBW world right now. And we are just getting started. Coming up next, we're stepping into the cultural commentary segment. And I need you to be present for this one. We're talking about where America in Black and White stands in the summer of 2026. And I promise you this conversation is necessary. So stay right here. So, as we get here into our cultural commentary here, I wanted to be clear about something. America in 2026 is not post-racial. It is not post-tension, and it is certainly not post-conversation. What it is a country still working out the terms of its own contradictions. And Black America is still, as it has always been, standing at the center of the reckoning. Today, I want to talk about the cultural landscape, specifically through our lens, the Black American lens, because what I'm seeing right now deserves more than a tweet. It deserves a real conversation. So let's have it. So, Black faces are more visible than ever across streaming network television and mainstream media. But visibility is not the same as power, ownership, or narrative control. And so what that means is that there's some things that definitely have to take place as far as the conversation. So yes, today there was a question in the chat. No, sir, there are no guests today, and I'm assuming since you just got here, I'll just tell you. As of September 7th, which will be Labor Day, we're going to be unveiling a new format and some new things that we'll be doing here to the show. Here on the show, we're going to be expanding the conversations. And expanding the conversations means that there's going to be more coverage, more of what you guys want here in this audience, and we promise to not let you down when it comes to that. Also, I just stated I need you guys to start following us on our website, AmericanBlackandWhite.us. So back to the commentary. Black faces are more visible than ever across streaming network television and mainstream media, but visibility is not the same as power, ownership, or narrative control. And so what that means is that we've got here in this year in 2026, we've got more Black creators and talent that continues to generate billions in cultural capital, while institutional ownership, executives, representation, and IP control remain starkly limited at the top of the major media conglomerates. So what we're talking about is that for all media, especially Black media, an enormous amount of it is not owned by the people that you see on a lot of shows. And with that being said, that means that not only are these people actually doing good work, putting out great content, and trying to be about as best as possible for whatever they're actually cultivating, or what's in their crosshairs, as if they are a specific targeted show that's actually doing specific content. And so what that means is, as they generate all of this money that they're generating, these people are not the benefactors of this. They don't own that content. They're actually putting out this content that's using their name to put out this content, but it's not theirs. So that's why you see a lot of people that you have that start shows or programs that they're doing the shows, but when they're doing the shows, they're being controlled. So as they're being controlled, and this content, the content that they put out that's not theirs, they don't benefit from that. The only thing that they're benefiting from is the fact that you, Mr. and Mrs. America out there that's actually supporting these platforms, is how they're known. But as far as the monetary value, which is what they're actually doing this for, they don't own the content. They don't own the content. So when was the last time you saw a Black showrunner, a Black studio head, or a Black majority owner in the room where the real decisions were made, not just the credits? Now, I'm being funny, but I own this. This is mine. So I just wanted to throw that rhetorical question out there for you, because not many of those people that you're looking at can actually say that they own their content, because they don't. Now, this is not a put down. What this is saying is that we need more ownership when it comes to Black media. And Black media has to get better in its content, because not being a monolith, and having so many variations to things that's being done that's from a cultural perspective, we've got to get better in putting out this content or connecting with people in the community. Because if you're not connecting with people in the community, then you're still lacking. So we've got to do something to make this a better situation, because by what's actually happening right now, let me tell you, when I see stories that fly across the electronic media, that is here on social media, that media could be a whole lot better. It could be delivered a whole lot better. But what happens when we don't? What happens if we don't? This is what I'm talking about. Because if there's no ownership, that means there's no control. Some of you all have much larger platforms than me. It's amazing that you have those platforms, but what your audience don't know is that you don't own that content. We'll get into that a little bit later, because there's some interesting situations that have taken place that I think a lot of people need to understand what I'm talking about when I speak this about media and about the Black media market, because it means just that much. The nuance point is acknowledge there's genuine progress that exists. There's more Black-led stories. There's more streaming platforms commissioning Black content while refusing to mistake visibility for systemic change. And that means that they're putting Black faces to be the face of content that they don't own. Think about that. Most of these shows that you see that's got Black people there, they don't own the content. And if you're not owning the content, how can you say that you're doing black media because, you know, you're actually controlled and you've been brought down to this point, that point. So just culture without economic power is entertainment. We need both the story and the studio. So let's jump on it, people. Let's make this happen. Let's make things happen the way we know that they're supposed to be happening. And let's get the real stories out so we can make sure that people know what's happening today, why it's happening, and what we should do together to unify and make it right. So let me talk to you guys about economic equity. That gap, that growth has not closed. I mean, it's actually getting wider and wider as we speak. So the wealth gap between Black and white American households remains one of the most persistent structural failures in the country's economic history. And the summer of 2026 has offered no shortage of data to prove it. This is a story that we'll be talking about most likely forever, because we will never be able to catch up in this lifetime when it comes to this. And I'm putting this out because I just want you to know that unless we start unifying, coming together as a community, and we start building our communities together, this is our starting point. That will be our base. This is where we need to start at. So I think we need to start thinking about that because, now a lot of us on the other side of being a senior citizen, has got an enormous amount of things that not only do you have to think about when we talk about economic equity, there's just so many things that goes into that. You've got employment, you've got family, you've got education. All of those things go into a factor into economic equity. But if there's not a lot of that, then what do we do? See, there's a lot that we can't do, but there are some things that we can do to start this path. We need to start this path as I said, by unifying. I mean, I think pretty much, when we live in this country today, it's rich versus poor. And so pretty much we know what rich looks like, that top 1%. But what about the people that are on the bottom? Why are we not unified? Why are we not unified and building what we know we should be building together? Because actually the country's on a brink. And being on the brink is like one of the worst things we could ever imagine when it comes to this. It's really a horrible thing. But there are things that we can do to make this better. Key observations is there's record levels of Black entrepreneurship and a growing Black professional class. Median Black households' wealth continues to lag significantly behind the white median household wealth, a gap driven not by effort or ambition, but by structural barriers in housing, credit, inheritance, and institutional access. So that in itself is telling you that, despite what some may see as progress, there's still a lot of regression. There are still an enormous amount of things that are not happening, and we got people that are still facing the same issue over and over and over again. But it gets so sad that so many people that live in the same community that face those same harsh realities where it's happening, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening. We have got to do something to change this. We have got to make this a whole lot better. So my thing is distinguish between individual financial success, which is real and worth honoring, and systemic equity, which is still absent. This is not about victim mentality. It is about accuracy. So just in thinking about this, economic equity is not a charity. It is accountability, and this country owes that conversation more honestly than it is currently offering. So I'll just leave you with that to think about that. Let's talk about generational identity. There's a generational tension within Black America that deserves honest examination, not judgment, but honest examination. Gen Z, Black Americans, are defining their identity on terms that are sometimes strikingly different from the frameworks that shaped millennials, Gen X, and the generations before them. Now, we're talking about this is a lot. This is a lot because we're talking about this now on a generational level, and we're talking about generational identity. And when we talk about generational identity, there's lots and lots of issues there when it comes to individuals, because everybody look at this and face this in a separate but different way as to how things are going to be in their lives, how they see things in their lives. And so I just want you guys to understand that as we talk about this, again, this is something that we all should think about, each and every individual, for how conversations like this affect us. But when we think about how it affects us, we then have to look out into our family, our households, our families, our communities, our friends, our relatives, and then the world. So it only gets wider. So as this is happening, how do we take on this generational identity? And we come up with a way of not just having an actionable plan, but sticking with it. Some observations. Questions of code switching, respectability politics, political alignment, and cultural authenticity are being re-litigated in real time on social media, in music, in fashion, in activism, and the conversation is not always comfortable. And it's not always comfortable because we've set ourselves up here in our country here in America. We've set ourselves up in this country to, one, say you have to be on one side or the other. You have to be on one side or the other, and the side you pick is the side that's going to be the best. Now, why do we have to choose sides? Why is it imperative that we choose sides? That's the $1 million question. That's the $1 million question. Because when you choose a side, that means that that's where you are. That's where you're stuck. I don't see anybody being stuck when it comes to a situation like this. I don't see it. Because when you got a child that's grown up and don't understand or know how he or she is classified, from their generational identity. That is a problem. And we're now here in the 21st century. And we're still talking about generational identity. No, that's not the way that works. We can't have that. We have to do better. We have to do better. We know who we're born to. We know where we live. We know our communities. We know our schools. We know our doctors. We should not be having this conversation, which needs to be had here in America, here in the 21st century. Every generation of Black America has had to define itself for itself. That is not a crisis. That is the tradition. Let that sit as you think about it. Let that sit. So here's what I need you to walk away with from this knowing. I need you to walk from this segment knowing that awareness is not enough and representation is not a destination. Black America in the summer of 2026 is talented, creative, resilient, hungry, and it deserves systems, structures, and intuitions that match its energy. We don't need permission to be great. We never did, but we do need to keep demanding the access, the ownership, and the equity that greatness requires. That is the cultural call to action for the moment. Remember it. Let me take a moment to speak directly to the brands, organizations, and institutions listening, or to anyone who knows someone who should be listening. American Black and White is not just a podcast. It is a platform with purpose. Season 4 is well underway, and the audience that has gathered around this show, loyal, engaged, culturally invested, and growing, represents one of the most valuable audiences in independent media today. Our listeners are Black Americans and allies who pay attention. They make decisions about where they shop, what they support, which brands they trust, and which ones they don't. They are professionals, parents, entrepreneurs, students, and community leaders. They are not passive consumers. They are active advocates. And when they believe in something, they bring their community with them. If your brand is serious about reaching this audience authentically, credibly, and with cultural intelligence, then a partnership with American Black and White is not an expense. It's not an expense. It is an investment. We're now welcoming select brand partnerships, institutional sponsors, and community organization collaborations for season 4 and beyond. Whether you are a national brand looking to deepen your connection to Black America, a local business wanting to grow your presence, or an institution committed to equity and community, this is the table where that conversation starts. Reach out to us. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what a real partnership looks like. Reach out to us directly through our social media channels or drop us a message at americanblackandwhite.us, our website, to start the conversation. America in Black and White, the conversation is already happening. The only question is whether your brand is in the room. That is the only question. So let me go over here. Let me talk to you guys here about this other segment. I want to talk to you guys about sports. Let's talk about sports. And I don't mean the scoreboard. I don't mean the box score. I mean the real game. Um, the one that happens in front offices and contract negotiations and the boardroom decisions that never make the highlight reel, but shape everything you see on the field and on the screen. It is July 2026. The NBA offseason is in full boil. The NFL preseason is warming up. And 10 days ago, ESPN fired Ryan Clark. And if you think that's just a sports media story, I need you to listen a little more carefully, because what happened to Ryan Clark is the whole conversation in one moment. Let's get into that. The facts. This is the facts. On Monday, July 21st, 2026, ESPN fired Ryan Clark. Not laid off, fired. Clark himself has been very clear about that distinction. He joined ESPN back in 2015 as an NFL analyst and spent over a decade building his reputation as one of the most respected, most honest, most culturally connected voices in the building. And they fired him mid-show. He was on the set of NFL Live, went to commercial, and was informed during the break, because the news had already leaked to the media before ESPN even had the conversation with him. He did not return to finish his on-air appearance. Let that sink in for a second. So with that, I want you to think about this and put this in context. Ryan Clark is on air. He is on air. He's doing his show NFL Live. And they go to commercial break. He's told during commercial break that you've been fired and you've got to get off the set. Now, as you let that sink in, I want you to just think a whole lot more about this, because from a cultural perspective, not only is that disrespectful, that is humiliating, and is only the most humiliating thing that you could ever think could happen to a person, because this has never happened before. So we'll let Ryan Clark be the first. Now, I'm saying this to say is that, again, by not using your own platform, you see, that's the importance of having ownership, is because when that happens, see, on your show, you control that. You see, you don't have to worry about getting fired. But when you're on somebody else's platform, this is what happens. This is how one gets fired. This is why one gets fired. Because Ryan Clark was not one of those that was very passive in his commentary. He was very, very open, and he was to the heart. Whatever he said is what he believed. This was not about, insulting. He was true about what he believed. And so the context of all of this, so this is what the context is that's being put out in mainstream media. They said this firing is happening inside a broader wave of ESPN cuts tied to Disney absorbing NFL Network in April of 2026. Tom Pelissero, gone. Carl Ravitch, gone. After 33 years at ESPN, Cam Newton, gone. Bart Scott, gone. Charles Davis, gone. Stephania Bell, gone. ESPN chairman James Pitero put out a memo citing organizational restructuring following the NFL Network integration. So on the surface, this is a budget story. But if you dig a little deeper, and we always dig a little deeper, On this show, it is not simply that, because any of you that watch sports, and if you are especially a football person, and you watch and you listen to Ryan Clark says a lot of things that are well within bounds of what happens in the NFL. Now, when he does that, he can say those things because he has lived experience. Remember, he's an NFL veteran that's been in the league for like 12, 15 years and successfully transitioned from the NFL to television, to ESPN, as a matter of fact, the sports leader, as they call it. So what else is there to get from Ryan Clark but his lived experience to talk about what is happening, or in situations as to statistics and things that they are giving these people to study, instead of actually talking from what you know about the sport, or maybe some things that may be a little bit digging deeper into what stories might be. They give you statistics that they want you to talk about. So giving you the statistics to talk about means that they want to make sure that you stay within bounds of that. Now, so just so we add a little bit more to what the context of what was leaked in mainstream media, this is what The Athletic reported. The Athletic noted that Clark's firing was not purely financial. His public on-air confrontation with Peter Schrager in 25 and the decision to take his contract negotiations public in 24 were cited as factors that made the wrong impression on ESPN executives. In other words, he was too vocal, too public, too willing to handle his business in the open rather than behind closed doors like ESPN preferred. Now, when you listen to that, that is saying that Ryan Clark was telling too much truth and got beside himself, but did not understand that ESPN was in control. So they're in control. They let this go for 24. They let this go for 25. We roll into 26 mid-year. And so now they've got to get the last laugh, because they're going to show him that they're in control. So we're going to fire you on air. We're going to humiliate you on air. This is what they did. So I'm just, as this is going out, I just want people to understand. How many of you are still supporting ESPN? How many of you are still supporting ESPN? Now, I'm going to tell you honestly, 5 years ago, I've seen a lot of things on that. I got fed up with watching that network. I canned that subscription I had. The writing was on the wall 5 years ago what the change was going to be. Some of these guys just did not take it that serious. But you know, Cam Newton said it best, because Cam Newton made the statement on his show. Now, he owns his platform. He did not let ESPN buy his platform or give him a platform. Cam Newton owns his own platform. And he made the statement that unless you own your own platform, you are not going to survive being who you are on air on somebody else's. That is what he said. Now, I'm not quoting him verbatim. I'm just giving you the gist. So let me just tell you my take. Let me just tell you my take, and I'm going to run into this and I'm going to end this. But let me tell you what my take is. Ryan Clark is the kind of analyst who doesn't just talk ball. He talks culture, he talks race, he talks social issues. He is a black man with a platform who has never pretended that platform was only for fourth down analysts. And that is exactly the kind of voice that makes certain people uncomfortable. So the question this show needs to ask is this: is ESPN cutting costs or is ESPN trimming voices? Remember, is ESPN trimming voices? Because there's a difference between a budget cut and a choice. And when the people who get cut are disproportionately the ones who speak loudest about social and political reality, that is not a coincidence. That is a pattern. So that is to say, this has happened more and more at ESPN. Folk have been fired at ESPN, just not like Ryan Clark was fired at ESPN. So you see, unless you are a particular, there's a particular voice there that's loud and obnoxious, but it's loud and obnoxious in the opposite direction. They don't mess with that because that is something that can do its work without having to have a real authentic person talk truth to their lived experience and their real life experience. And so the disrespect of all of this is, I keep coming back to, how you tell a man he's fired during a commercial break, mid-show, after the news has already hit the internet. That is not a business decision. That is a statement. Whether they intended it that way or not, that is the message it sends. And Ryan Clark, to his absolute credit, responded with class. He sent prayers to everyone affected. He posted a workout video, and he did not fold. He did not quit. He was not quiet. He didn't go quiet. He made it clear that this chapter does not define his story. And it don't define his story because he has a podcast that's got followers, and I'm sure that he's going to continue to get followers. But what that does is that despite what ESPN thought, how they humiliated him, they only made it better for him. And I think that a lot of people, especially those that look like Ryan Clark, should be thinking in the same form, however you want to look at it, is that why not get together, unify, and form your own network? Why not form your own network? You guys have got the following. Most of you guys have got the following. You guys still got the access to sports. You still got the access. Why not take advantage of that? The bigger pattern is this is where, because this is not just about one man, ESPN is absorbing NFL Network, growing its empire, expanding its reach, and firing the people who helped build the culture that made the brand worth anything. You're getting bigger, you're getting wealthier, and you're showing the black analysts who told the truth on your platform the door. That is worth naming, and that is definitely worth more than a headline. And it's worth more than a headline because I want you to think about this. People can do many, many things. People that own businesses, here in America, everything is what we call capitalism. And again, These are issues that are being sown so through the fabric of this country that is causing people to lose sight on the real pointed part of being human, of having a moral compass, of having a moral clause. Because when you think about it, hey, it's capitalism, as they say. And let's just throw it out there that way. So we throw it out as capitalism. Hey, people do what they want to. This is their money. They can do whatever they want to do. But when you do whatever you want to do, you don't do this at the expense of humiliating someone else and to use their likeness for as long as you did to gain ground, to gain an advantage, and then say, I don't need you anymore. Bye. I can tell you each and every company that's done that and that's doing this right now to this point, I can guarantee you the prosperity that they think they're going to get is not going to be prosperity. Because I can guarantee you that as many folk that are fans of Ryan Clark and others that were there at ESPN, and they're looking at this kind of madness that's taking place, nobody's crazy. Everybody knows the writing on the wall there. Stop blaming that on budget cuts. Be grown men and stick to what you're trying to do and why you're doing it. You see, when Ryan Clark got fired, how about Pat McAfee got a new huge contract? How about Stephen A. Smith gets an addition to his contract? I want you guys to think about that. What's the budgetary issue if these people are getting more and more money? It sounds like to me that these are the main two catalysts that are carrying the water. That's what it sounds like to me. I mean, and so we'll be talking more and more about sports as we go into the future of the show. But I mean, I just want to know, what do you guys really think about that? Because there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. And what's wrong with it to me is that, again, if you don't understand, as I said in that last segment, about what code switching is and how you need to code switch if you want to stay within particular organizations, you got a problem. Because if you go there and you want to be authentically you and you look like me, that's going to be a problem. They're not going to have that. No one's going to have that don't look like you. Because truth to power, in that case, does not match the platform. And if that does not match the platform, that means that you are not welcome. If I can use you, get what I want, use your likeness, and have people follow me for some years, build up all that steam. After I got enough steam, then I can say, okay, I don't need you anymore. Bye. You're fired. But see, some people take firing in a different way. And when I say people take it in a different way, I'm talking about the companies that do the firing. You see, they have a way of doing these things. But again, we'll see how this plays out, because I'm definitely following this story, because I want to know the exact reason and get as much up into ESPN business as I can to find out exactly why did this transpire the way it did for Ryan Clark. Look, let's talk about the quarterback conversation that's continuing in the NFL. Now, this is one of the things that got Ryan Clark in trouble. And it got him in trouble because, he said some things about the quarterbacks that that most people at ESPN, handle with kid gloves. They put bubbles around them and they protect them at any cost. And so But not just talking about those people, but talking about what's happening today in present day NFL and this quarterback situation. As the NFL kicks into preseason mode in the summer of 2026, the ongoing conversation about Black quarterbacks, coaching diversity, and front office representation has not lost a step. If anything, it has accelerated. So let me tell you about some observations here that I've made before I give you my take. The observations that I've seen was the Rooney Rule has been on the books for over 2 decades. Black quarterbacks have won 2 Super Bowls, earned MVP awards, and transformed the position. And yet the pipeline to head coaching and general manager roles for Black professionals in the NFL remains disproportionately narrow relative to the player workforce it serves. 80% of the players in NFL are Black. That's just the gist. That's just the gist. Okay? So now with that, and you've got maybe 5 general managers. Because see, this is like ugly. You've got like 5 general managers, and I think maybe 6, 7, 8 head coaches. But you got 80% of the workforce is Black. 80%. I want you to let that sink in. Come on, sports fans. Come on, sports fans. I need y'all to stay with me. I need some comments in that chat, because where I'm going, you know where I'm going, because it's true. But most of you continuously to support this kind of foolishness. My take on this is we keep having the same conversation at the end of every hiring cycle. Teams talk about diversity, they talk about process, and then the names that get announced look exactly like the names that got announced 5 years ago. That's not a pipeline problem. That's a preference problem. That's a preference problem. But to even go back to something that I missed is that the Rooney Rule, now remember, we got the state of Florida that's got 3 teams. They've got the Dolphins, they've got the Buccaneers, and they've got the Jaguars. They got 3 teams. How about the, I think it's the state attorney general, the state attorney is bumping heads with the NFL when it comes to the Rooney Rule, because he says that diversity in the state of Florida is non-existent, and that violates Florida state laws. Now, here's my question to the fans in Florida and the NFL fans in general. With that happening, and they're taking the NFL to court over this, are you guys going to stop being fans? Are the owners of those teams going to move their teams to other states? This is something that you need to think about. This ain't me. This is the NFL, and this is what's happening in the state of Florida. What should happen about that? So, going back to what I just got through talking about, the Ron Clark story connects directly here, because Clark spent years covering the NFL, advocating for players and speaking plainly about the league's racial dynamics. His firing is a reminder that the same power structures that limit Black coaches and executives in the NFL also shape which Black analysts get to stay in the room to cover those stories. Connect those dots. Connect those dots. This is real. This is about as real as it gets. And when you just think about this, I mean, how does something like this gets into sports, that this kind of dynamic is like a cancer that's eating away at the sport. It's eroding the sport because there are lots and lots of people. Let me tell you, well, hold on before I go any further. Let me tell you this disclaimer. I myself have been a part of the Steeler Nation ever since 1969. I've always been a Pittsburgh Steeler person. I've supported that team through the worst situations. But when the change started to take effect, that is after 1986 going into 1987, 88, the league started taking on a whole new look. It started taking on a whole new look then. It took me until the year of 2000 to realize that the league had become poisonous. And you could see it. The rules that have changed now you got the quarterbacks, you can't hit them, you can't touch them. This all started, they changed that rule, so people know they changed that rule because of Dan Marino. Dan Marino would get hit, and Dan Marino would complain to the NFL officials that this is like after his second, third year in the league. What they did, they went to the spring meetings, and they came up with the rule that you can no longer hit the quarterback in this particular way. You can't hit them when it looks like you're going low to the knee. That was the start of that. Marino was in that class in 1983. So this is what I'm saying to you. 86, 87, 88, along that time frame, the rules started to changing. And so now it's basically like, you had real football where all these players were actually, in order to get in the Hall of Fame, you had to be a part of championship caliber teams. You had to have won championships. Now, we're talking about this quarterback position. And when I look at the quarterback position today, I can honestly tell you that as I look at quarterbacks that are, especially the ones of African-American persuasion, my top two, regardless of the case, this is of the entire quarterback class. My top two is Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. It gets no better than the two of them. They do one thing, that's win. They win. Mahomes has had more of a dynamic team than Hurts did, even though Hurts has won the Super Bowl against Mahomes. That team had a different dynamic, but it had a power dynamic to it. But when we talk about quarterbacks today, and we talk about the last part of quarterbacks now that they're just thrown in the NFL, thrown into the Hall of Fame, it does not require now for you to win championships and be a Hall of Fame quarterback. You now just have to have stats. You have to have these 4,000-yard seasons every year. You can have 25 touchdowns and 35 interceptions. That don't matter. But as long as the analysts have, when they speak advocacy and they advocate for certain quarterbacks, these are the quarterbacks that get favor. These are the ones that every year, include this year, they throw these folks talking about some of the top 10 quarterbacks, and they are constantly, the constant reminder, because I've got to say this, and you've got so many folk that follow the NFL, the reminder is, why are y'all so hating on Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts has got to be the most dynamic quarterback in the NFL. I've never seen the situation that happened to this young man. 3 years at Alabama, 3 different offensive coordinators. Then he goes to Oklahoma, another offensive coordinator. He comes into Philadelphia, and Philadelphia, for these first 5 years of his career, don't even keep the same coordinator every year. So that means that Jalen Hurts has played under 9 different offensive coordinators in his college and professional days but yet and still, he's so dynamic that he still wins, has won a Super Bowl, appeared in 2 Super Bowls, but yet and still, you hear people talk about Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and they're saying that they are the best quarterbacks in the league, but neither of them, other than Joe Burrow, have had the opportunity to play a Super Bowl. And that was one time, and that was by chance his rookie season when they fell ass backwards into getting into the Super Bowl by getting that lucky opportunity of beating Kansas City in Kansas City. Since then, has Joe Burrow even been to the playoffs? But they call him the best quarterback. They call Josh Allen the best quarterback. Josh Allen can't even get past the Kansas City Chiefs. They have never been to a Super Bowl, but he's the best quarterback. Now, I want you to know, I'm going to tell you this, and this is me doing football history. Josh Allen has got Jim Kelly syndrome. Jim Kelly went to the Super Bowl 4 straight years with the Buffalo Bills and couldn't win 1 game. That tells you that he wasn't a big game quarterback. Josh Allen can't even get to the Super Bowl. He can't even, I think he's probably played in 1 championship game if he played in a championship game. Hadn't even made it to a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson has never made it to a Super Bowl. Justin Herbert has only been in the playoffs 2 times, including last season. And each time, first round, he's out. Can't win a game. But Jalen Hurts has won, on average, 13 games a season, been to the Super Bowl twice, should have won both, but they won 1 Super Bowl. He's been there twice, and they say that he's not even a top 10 quarterback. Consistently winning 12, 13 games a year. That's on average for his time in Philadelphia. We know why that is, and that's because, as I say, you know, you have advocates, and this is the NFL in conjunction with sports broadcasting as to who you hype up and who you tear down. Football fans need to get real about that, and they need to know that this is a real story. This is a real story. And so let me tell you about athlete advocacy here in 2026. One of the defining things of 2026 sports is the continuing pressure placed on Black athletes who choose to speak on issues beyond the game, and the double standard applied to them when they do. Here's the observation. When Black athletes speak on race, politics, or social justice, they are routinely told to stick to sports by the same media ecosystem that profits from their labor, likeness, and cultural identity. When those same conversations become profitable, those same voices go conspicuously quiet. So let me give you an offset to this, because I don't know if you guys remember when those 2 San Francisco 49er players, Joey Bosa and Brock Purdy, wearing the MAGA hats. Wearing the MAGA hats after a Thursday game. No punishment, no sit up and play football. They were able to do that. Is there a double standard? Tell me about it. I think it's more than a double standard. But you see, this is where when you create your own platform is yours. Do what you have to do. I'm not advocating for no player. Nope, not advocating for no player. But what I'm saying to you, and what I'm saying to you, the public, is that we have a problem here. And the problem is what's being interwoven into this system is more repression, oppression, and racism to the 15th degree. It wasn't even like this primarily after Reconstruction, really. This is really ramped up. Really ramped up. So the moment a black athlete becomes a brand, everybody wants a piece. The moment that same athlete becomes a voice, a real voice on real issues, suddenly it's controversial. You cannot commodify blackness and then silence it. Pick one. So my whole thing is Ryan Clark's situation is the perfect case study for the point. Here's a man who used his platform at ESPN to speak on things beyond the game: race, culture, politics, player welfare, and who made the wrong impression on executives by doing exactly that. The same network that profited from his credibility, his black audience relationships, and his cultural authority decided that credibility had limits. And those limits happened to land right where his voice got most real. You cannot tell me that this is not a broader pattern worth examining. I need somebody to hear me and amen this, and I need somebody to tell me, am I wrong? Because what you guys got going on here, this is crazy. And what is happening is that for all the unifications that people try to build and put together, you've got all facets of what's happening here today in America is actually tearing the fabric of America apart. It's tearing America apart. And again, saying this, a lot of people don't want to hear me say that. But it's true. When are people going to start dealing with the truth and doing something about it? We have to do something about this, because it's going to get to a point pretty soon that, things are going to start happening to athletes, or, people are just going to just start going all kind of crazy and just doing things. I mean, because I just really don't understand how is it that we can get to sports and we can polarize sports in this manner and it's okay. We have to do something about this, people. I'm open for suggestions, and I know what's in my mind and what's in my heart. I know what's in my mind and my heart. But I can also tell you this. I can no longer support, this league itself. I can cover these stories. Oh, and I'll definitely cover these stories because I understand this lived experience, as well as I understand the contextual content and context in which these folk are performing what they're performing. They're actually surgically cutting up players, surgically cutting them up with mainstream media as his main go-to doctor. I say this to players now, that's high school, college, and professional. Stop getting involved with mainstream media. It's the same thing that builds you up only to get ready and prepare to tear you down. That's what they do. There's no consciousness, no realness about this media. None. Because those same players that you guys sit there, you give autographs to, you sit there, you give them interviews, those are the same people that's backstabbing you and went to the networks to tear you down. The very same people. So sports and culture in Black America are not separate conversations. They never have been. Muhammad Ali wasn't just a boxer. Colin Kaepernick wasn't just a quarterback. And the athletes of 26 are not just athletes. They are reflections of us, what we value, what we fight for, and what we refuse to accept. So when you watch the game this weekend, watch the whole game, not just play on the field. Watch the power, watch the money, watch who's in the booth, who's in the box, and who's making the decisions. That's where the real score is kept. So you'll know who is what. So I want to thank you all for being here. I appreciate the time that you all gave me. And I want you to remember, as I said to you earlier, please start going to the website, americainblackandwhite.us. Please check out the things that are there on the site. Subscribe to the newsletters. Make sure that you're going through the site thoroughly so you will not only see where our Spotify, the show on Spotify, will also come through the website. We're going to actually have the frame to where the show will be played live on the website via YouTube. You'll also get the opportunity to catch the show via the Apple Podcast. So I'm asking you guys to please just go and check out what's going on there, what's happening, because there's more and more that's going to be happening that I'll be releasing as we get closer to that date of September 7th, which is Labor Day. So for those of you that are watching, especially on our YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe and enable all notifications. And please, you'll be able to catch the shows when they go live. You'll be able to go back and watch all of the previous great shows. And you're also able to leave comments and feedback as much as you like. So let me do this closing monologue as we close for this wonderful weekend. We covered a lot of ground today, and I mean that in the truest sense. We covered ground, the kind of ground that Black America has been standing on, fighting for, building on, and being buried in for generations. Today, we talked about representation that isn't reaching deep enough, economic equity that still hasn't arrived, a generation defining themselves on their own terms. We talked about sports that are more than sports, and athletes who refuse to be reduced to their stats. And we did all of that because that is what we do at American Black and White, is for this show to exist because these conversations deserve a home, because our stories in their full complexity, their full brilliance, and their full pain deserved a platform that takes them seriously. That is what we are building. Episode by episode, season by season, and we are at episode 120. 120 episodes. Think about that. 4 seasons deep. 4 seasons deep. And we're not slowing down. We are not watering down. And we are not going anywhere. But before I let you go, I need to return to where we started today, because some things are too important to leave at the top of the show and never come back to. To the family of Nolan Wells, I hope something we said today, whether it was the cultural conversation, the sports breakdown, or simply the fact that this show showed up today and chose to lead with your name and his memory, I hope something gave you a moment of peace. Grief is not a straight line. Grief is not a straight line. It doesn't follow a script, but love is consistent. And the love this community has for Nolan Wells and for you, his family, that is consistent too. We dedicated this episode to him, and we mean it, not as a courtesy, not as a formality, but as a promise that his name was spoken with care, with honor, and with the kind of attention his memory deserves. Rest well, Nolan. To everyone listening, thank you, genuinely. Whether this is for the first episode or you've been with us since season 1, thank you for being here. This show is yours as much as it is mine. Share it. Leave a review. Follow us on all platforms. Tell somebody about American Black and White, because the more people in the room, the louder the conversation, and this conversation needs to be loud. I'm your host, Charles Zachary King. This has been American Black and White, Season 4, Episode 120, a solo show, a dedication, a conversation that matters. Until the next time, stay informed, stay grounded, and stay Black. And please, check us out tomorrow on Changing Trends and Times. at 2 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow as we continue our healthcare series with episode 3. We will see you guys tomorrow.